Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth episode of Elevator Platicas. I am Romeo Nava. I am your co-host of the show.
And I'm Yesenia. I'm your other host.
And as you can see, we are doing this episode virtually again. We are each so busy, but we want to continue to do episodes. So we hope to do more in person as well. But in order to continue to do more episodes, it's easier if we continue to do virtual, some of them virtually as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just like time wise too, it just gets so hard for us. So especially in the summer. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like the setup and I got good feedback from family that it looked good. Well, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
don't
for
know.
today, yeah,
I
go ahead.
also don't know how many people watch versus just listen.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the type though that like I love to like sit here and watch YouTube videos, even if I'm not watching the whole time. Like I want to be able to like maybe do my eyebrows and like watch a video. Like I don't know, it's
Hmm.
just what I like
Yeah.
to do. But anyways, there's so much going on, not only in our lives, but outside of our homes, and it's just been something that's been going on a lot lately that I think has been affecting all of us personally. And so, like, I just wanted to see, like, what we can talk about today, like, maybe open up a little bit about how we're processing everything. And yeah, just seeing, like, how you're doing, how we're handling, these hard situations. And I think even more so, like, as parents of little kids, because, like, our kids don't even know what's going on around them. It's crazy. I think about it all the time. Like, you literally have no idea, like, what's going on the outside. And that's
Yeah.
okay. Like, they don't need to know, but I just, like, find myself thinking of that. So, how you been feeling, like, personally?
Just with everything that's going on.
Yeah, like with the when just to kind of also really reference this directly, it's about the deep mass deportations that have been happening, so that we can be clear, like that's what we're talking about, depending on when this comes out.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's obviously been very hard to see everything that's happening. Um, and honestly, I'm not on social media very much because that's all I see.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I can't even watch the videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's heartbreaking. I just can't imagine being in that situation, especially obviously now having a son and having to go through that. And like you said, they don't know what's going on. So how
Yeah.
could you possibly even explain, to your child that their parent is no longer going to be here or,
Mm-hmm.
another family member? So
Yeah.
yeah, just for that reason alone, I'm not on social media very much because I just, for my own well-being and mental health, I just don't want to be really consuming that too much. With that being said, I obviously want to stay informed.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on sparingly to make sure that I am informed to the extent that I can handle.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's upsetting. It angers me a lot because obviously people voted for this guy to be in the White House and be our
Mm-hmm.
quote unquote president. And now to see all the things that he's doing, all the hate and all the terror that he is spreading.
Mm-hmm.
And I think unfortunately people were so ignorant to the fact that this is what he would do. And not only is he doing what he set out to do, but he is also using it as a distraction to, one, pit people against each other,
Mm-hmm.
um, different racial groups and different cultures in this country, and sort of distracting from all the other shit that he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
like making the ultra rich more wealthy, cutting, obviously Medicare and things like that, essential things that working people, lower class people need,
Mm-hmm.
and redistributing that wealth to people who don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I saw a video that talked about that, how he's just spreading chaos and violence and terror to
Mm-hmm.
distract us from even being able to talk about and handle the other things that he is doing. So it's like there's
Yeah.
so much that we can't even protest everything that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's a tactic that has been used for decades. That's what unfortunately keeps, the lower class and people like us at the bottom and them at the top, is they convince one group to hate another group because, hey, those migrants, they're taking your job. away. They're living off the system. They spread these false narratives, and they get, working class people to fight amongst each other.
Hmm.
They get them to hate each other and fight amongst each other. And all the while, the ultra rich and the people in power, they're getting wealthier and they're getting more powerful. And so it's just frustrating to see that we as a whole cannot learn from that and
Hmm.
see through what they are doing and hold them accountable. So yeah, it's a lot.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no. I'm gonna take a quick smoke break because that was a lot. But yes, I definitely can just like the same. I feel literally the same with everything that you're saying. And yeah, it's been hard. It's been hard to process.
Yeah.
I have found myself feeling sort of the same in the ways of like social media and like staying informed. So, like finding that healthy balance. And I feel like what has helped me has been making sure that I'm following like credible, just like factual. I just need facts because then I know when to go to those accounts and then I can be informed if I am mentally like in that capacity in that moment, So, like, I do check ins with myself and I'm like, okay, am I okay to like look at this because I do want to know what's going on? So like that has helped me a lot. And maybe I don't even follow those accounts because sometimes I just, sometimes you open your phone and you never know what you're gonna get on Instagram, right? Like the first thing that's gonna pop up. So sometimes I don't even follow the accounts, but I try to comment, I try to share when I can, to just spread the word because in a good way, it's a lot of our of what we see every day because it's really keeping that alive and reminding everybody that this is happening. But it's also like about finding the balance.
Hmm.
And I've been feeling lately like this overwhelming feeling of I feel like I can't help, Because just like some backstory, like with us, we're considered, I think I keep reading about like the first gen versus second gen experience. And I feel like it just depends on like who you talk to, just because I've kind of heard a little bit of both sides. But I feel like in our situation, we were born here in the US. Both of us I was born here in Chicago, you were born in Texas. And so I think our experience has been more second gen just because our parents came here when they were little. They were
Hmm.
small, they came here, and so they had that true experience with their parents, which with our grandparents, like even our grandma, she still doesn't speak much English. So our parents really had to help them navigate a lot of that experience. So I think in how I feel sometimes as second gen, especially in these situations where we're not having to necessarily ourselves worry about, being deported and things like that, like our community is being. It's still like this overwhelming feeling of how can I help? Like, what can I do? Like because I have privilege, I feel like I want to carry so much and tell myself like I have to do all of this. I have to go protest, I have to go do this, I have to do, all of it. And I
Yeah.
just feel like I get so overwhelmed. And then I'm just like, okay, but I can't do all of that? Like I can't. I have
Yeah.
to take care of my kids, this and that. So then I try to like, okay, let's not put that pressure on yourself. And what are you doing already every day that is resisting? So I feel like shifting that perspective has also kind of helped me feel a little bit better because also I've read like this quote somewhere and I am misquoting it, but it basically says, if you are depleted, if you're so angry at everything that is happening that you're so depleted, then you're not able to give anything, you know? So it's
Yeah.
actually like you have to take care of yourself. If you do want to resist, we have to be strong. We have to be mentally strong to be able
Yeah.
to resist, to be able to stand up to the oppressors. And
Yeah.
that really stuck with me because I'm like, okay, that's exactly what I need to feel. I don't need to feel guilty that I have privilege over my community. I can welcome that feeling and feel that and say, hey, I can't do this, but I can do this. And I'm going to always be showing up for my community. So yeah, that's what has been helping me. So what has been helping you like to kind of feel that? Because I feel like I'm not the only one feeling that feeling of overwhelming.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not. I mean, I've been feeling the same way, like, and I think that's why it's hard for me to see the videos on social media because I also get that feeling of like guilt and like, okay, how am I helping? How am I doing something?
Hmm.
But like you said, it just goes back to we can't all do everything. Um,
Hmm.
and I actually saw a post, I think yesterday, that it just said like, some people may be out there protesting, some people may be doing, maybe they're an artist and maybe they do artistic protesting, maybe somebody does music, maybe somebody else does another thing. And it just basically said like, if you have a lane, stay in your lane. Like we need all the lanes right now.
Mm,
And so, I kind of found that powerful because I'm like, okay, like, again, we can't all do everything. We need there's people who, do a little bit of everything and we need all of those things right now.
mm-hmm,
So we need people who are on social media, we need people who are spreading awareness, we need people who are protesting, we need people who are organizing, we need other people who are just, supporting in their communities or hosting different events and spaces for people who need, resources or information, things like that. So I think for me, I think for me, my greatest form of resistance is continuing to find a way to succeed
mm-hmm,
in my endeavors. And so right now, I'm obviously working on this real estate investment program that I recently joined, and
mm-hmm,
that's really been my focus, trying to make that succeed. Um, and on the way I see it is the more success I can find, the more I can uplift other people and obviously uplift the community, uplift other entrepreneurs, hopefully show other Latinos how to invest, how to become entrepreneurs themselves as well. And that will just again uplift our community and give us more of a voice, more of an economic power,
mm-hmm,
which in turn we can use to create change, use that to impact voting and impact legislation, all of those things that will
mm-hmm,
actually create change. So I think
mm-hmm,
that's the way I see myself resisting and finding a way to create change is just by continuing to push forward and find success so that like I said I can truly have more time and resources to be able to help other people, uplift other people in my community. So I think that's what I know how to do is just kind of throw myself into working towards a goal and achieving it and finding
mm-hmm,
success. And then I think once I get to that point, that's when then I can help others.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, you're doing a lot of impactful work, even when you recorded the episode with Sembra to talk about like financial wealth, like
Hmm.
I thought that was awesome, like everything you said in that workshop, it honestly impacted me. You always motivate me and impact me, but even just hearing you and the things that you had to say, I was like, wow, I really didn't think about that before. So, yeah, I mean, you're definitely uplifting the community. So that I could definitely see how like that motivates you, to do the things that you're doing to help your community. And I mean, I think for me, like it looks a little bit different just because I have less time. So most of my time is devoted to my kids. So I feel like even then, I'm just like, I'm not even people facing every day. Like I'm not talking to a lot of people on a day-to-day
Yeah.
basis. So I'm just with my kids. So
Hmm.
sometimes I feel isolated in the way of like, I'm not even like getting the word out there. Like social media is really that environment for me. But then I think, the cycles that I'm breaking just in the way that I was parented, which, comes from colonialism and how, the things that happened to our people and how that kind of filtered into the parenting and all of those things that we're experiencing now. So I'm
Yeah.
like, even just breaking those toxic cycles within my family are me resisting, accepting my kids for exactly who they are and listening to them and having that respect for them. That's resisting. Dedicating myself so much to them is resisting, because
Hmm.
I'm really helping them become these people that will understand all of these things.
Yeah.
Whereas, when we were growing up, I mean, I didn't really hear our parents talking about political things, they just weren't really talked about in our family. I know in some
Yeah.
families it's different, but like in our specific family, like we never really talked about politics. And now I'm like, my kids are going to know about this. As soon as they are able to, they should be able to know the things that are happening. Maybe not to the extent that we're seeing them, but yeah, they can definitely comprehend. And I think like even more so, like when that happens, that's where I'm going to feel more like this is my form of resisting. It's just being a parent in general, because we are raising the next generation. So that in itself is resisting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what's going on right now also should force a lot of us to reflect on maybe how much we have assimilated and,
Hmm.
really reflect on where our roots are and how that fits into our life. And obviously, as parents, how that fits into how we raise our kids and what we teach them about. Um, I think there's a lot of things that should not be forgotten about where we came from and, our people, our culture, just because we live in America, we
Hmm.
don't have to lose those things.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, some people have assimilated so much so that they intentionally distance themselves from those things.
Hmm.
They don't want to be seen as indigenous or anything like that or anything tied to that culture. So I think that has also created just some loss in identity
Hmm.
among, Latinos and indigenous people. And we have, potentially created a stigma around ourselves.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously it's not a secret that there's a lot of Latinos who voted for Trump, so let's
Yeah.
ask ourselves why that is,
Yeah.
so I think, yeah, this should, force a lot of us to really, like I said, just reflect on that and really just delve deeper into what makes us who we are and not shying away from celebrating those things and teaching those things to our kids and keeping those things alive and really being proud of those things
Hmm.
because it's obvious that this country is trying to wash those things away. I actually a while ago I was watching this show, I think it's called Dark Winds.
Hmm.
Anyway, it was a show that was on a an Indian reservation
Hmm.
and anyway, there was like a little scene in there where they kind of talked about sort of the forced assimilation that people went through
Hmm.
when, settlers first came here and all that. I mean, there were literally boarding schools where they shaved their heads, they made them stop using their Indian names, all of these things to just physically and mentally change their identities and really stop wanting to associate with being indigenous, being Indian, and really, again, creating that stigma around that. So basically just drilling it into people's heads that, hey, you are less if you're Indian or you're less if you are indigenous.
Hmm.
And, really, like I said, mentally forcing people to want to distance themselves from that, So,
Hmm.
so yeah, things like that have been done in the past and they're still being done today in different forms.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. No, yeah. And I mean, I think even because I thought about this before, I'm like, why is it that that many Latinos voted for Trump? And even, yeah, just thinking about that when those statistics came out, I like really thought about it too. And I mean, yeah, it was designed to be that way, right? It was designed to be this process of like assimilation, like you said, for people to feel like I'm here now, so this is what I am now. It's that loss of
mhm,
identity.
yeah.
And I think even when I was growing up in Texas, I don't know how much you remember of like school in Texas, but for me, I spent basically elementary all halfway through middle school. So a long time. And I remember when I was younger, growing up in Texas, that even just within classmates and stuff, that because we were so close to the border, because in El Paso, like you're passing the highway, you can see Mexico. It's literally right there. You can see houses. So you see it all the time. And I feel like as a kid, I remember this feeling of they were less than us. And not in like a bad way, it's just like just a factual way, like they have less than we do. We have more. And I remember that kind of idea when I was young, living in Texas. And then I grew up and not that I believed it, but it's just like what I felt from the people that I was around, the families, everyone was, not even a lot of people spoke Spanish. Like we did have bilingual classrooms and stuff, but as kids got older and I went into middle school and things like that, like a lot of them didn't really know how to speak English. And it's crazy because you're so close to the border and there are so many Latinos. And I'm only saying this in my experience. I've moved from Texas since a while ago, and then just coming here to Chicago, like you just see the diversity and you do see a lot of more of that culture, which is nice. You don't. I feel like at that time, like early 90s, you didn't really see it as much, at least where I was. So yeah, I mean, I could see how definitely that happened where a lot of Latinos really assimilated so hard, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to think like, okay, but at what point are you just going to break and understand that that's not the truth, Like we're supposed to be standing up for ourselves, We're the ones being oppressed. You are still being oppressed and you just don't know. You
Yeah.
just don't know that, But yeah, I think just like even with the kids, thinking about my experience, like I wish my parents would have taught me more about what was going on. And maybe they didn't even, again, that wasn't taught to them and they were just maybe told like to stay away from stuff like that, and just not, but it's like we need to know because the more of this that the more that I started reading and educating myself more because I knew nothing about politics just a couple of years ago, And I felt like just teach yourself, like educate yourself. And I still don't know a lot. I still have so much more to go in what I want to accomplish as far as like understanding what is actually going on in politics. Because yeah, I mean, but then obviously you have this obvious things that it's like this is just humanity, Everybody
Yeah.
should be able to be on the same side. But yeah, I mean, it could be overwhelming. And it could be overwhelming when you have little kids like us that have toddlers that are barely even starting to speak, that don't know what's going on, And just trying to work through that as a parent is a lot, you know? It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard because, like you said, there's no real way to explain to them what's going on. And, you could be feeling heavy one day or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're intuitive. They can sense when something's going on.
Yeah.
And so those moments are hard because it's like I can't tell you, right? Like why I'm just feeling sad or frustrated today. And it's hard because it's unfair to them in a way
Mm-hmm.
because obviously it has nothing to do with them. But
Mm-hmm.
you're just kind of carrying that around. And so that's also another reason why I'm like, I don't want to be on social media too much and all that because then
Yeah.
it weighs on me and obviously I may not be present with Romis or I just may not be 100% there and so again it just goes back to that balance
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah I mean obviously I do want to teach him as well when he gets a little bit older so he can understand and he is he is not like some people who are ignorant. They just don't know, they don't understand what's going on and they just fall victim to the propaganda or whatever story they're spun because unfortunately politics is a lot of that
Yeah.
um, and yeah people just they believe what they see and that's it so
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and I think another thing that I was going to say, it's very frustrating that there is a very just bold in your face double standard when it comes to protesting and things like that. Obviously, what's going on in LA right now, what is now happening in Chicago, now that people are starting to protest,
Mm-hmm.
just the stark difference between what happened at the Capitol on January,
Mm-hmm.
when it was obviously a very different group of people,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that situation was handled, even the aftermath, obviously once he entered office, people being pardoned and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, they stormed the Capitol, and all we are doing is protesting because people are literally being kidnapped and families being torn apart, and we're basically just being terrorized, and all we're trying to do is protest something that is very, very wrong. And what
Yeah.
they were doing was, protesting what, this guy incited basically. And so,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a very, yeah, it's just a very bold reminder of what certain people believe that they're justified in what they do. And, when it comes to a certain group of people, they have different rules.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously that's extremely frustrating, and that's not what democracy is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Definitely agree. It's definitely, like you said, in your face, obvious, And yeah, just you going back to what you said about, why you have to really have that balance as a parent is because I've even noticed it in myself, like with it being a heavy week, with like everything that has been going on, with the deportations in the news. And then also like still having to really hear about the devastating genocide happening in Gaza. Like that's another thing that for me has just been like, just how is this still happening, at this point, this long into this, And even just like as a parent, knowing the children that are literally suffering, and
Yeah.
me being in the country that is funding this is just like, I don't even know like how to even begin to explain that to my
Yeah.
kids. But it will be explained whenever they can understand it, because then that's
Mhm.
how I resist. That's how I keep the kids informed about what's going on, because I want them to grow up and know these stories, because if they don't, then they're going to assimilate that hard and forget about everything. Also, like what
Mhm.
we're talking about.
Yeah.
So for me, it's important to, again, really continue to stick with the facts, continue to support, continue to learn, continue to uplift all oppressed communities. That's what's important for me. And that's what I want to teach my kids. And that doesn't mean being an expert in everything, because I know sometimes it's overwhelming to think about politics. It's overwhelming to think about these hard things that are going on, but you can do it on like your own. And that's why I feel like I was sharing like, how do we resist every day? Because sometimes, yeah, we can't be out there all the time. Or maybe you just have a lot of anxiety that showing up to a protest is not something that is safe for you. Like that's perfectly fine. Like I put a lot on myself constantly, even when it happens like outside of my family. Like I just want to help everyone. That's
Mhm.
always me. So yeah, I mean, I think just really reminding myself that I am resisting every day with just even healing myself, even that alone, because if I heal myself, I will be better for others, especially my kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what are some things, to kind of like end the conversation? Like what are some things that how do you find joy? Like with everything that's going on, it's a challenging situation, and like mentally, what are things that you're doing that are finding joy? Like aside from like uplifting your community, like for you, how are you finding joy for yourself?
I mean, a big thing for me is like obviously going to the gym. That's a big, obviously, stress reliever. And
Yeah.
that's just like a must. And I mean, just the fact that I'm continuing to work toward my fitness goals as well,
Mm-hmm.
because for so long I couldn't because of my back problems.
Yeah.
So that is huge for me. Every time I go to the gym, it's a boost. Like it's just that reminder of like just being able to work out again is a blessing.
Yeah.
That's a privilege in itself. So that's why it's honestly very easy for me to stay motivated because, like I said, I know what it's like to not be able to go to the gym and work out. So now
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have that excuse because if I'm complaining about, oh, I have to go to the gym, that would be like a disservice to myself when I couldn't go.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, definitely that's huge for me. Obviously, spending time with my family, um, spending time with my son.
Mm-hmm.
He is a big, big part of my joy, and it can be just as simple as going for a bike ride, going to the park, going to the
Mm-hmm.
playground with him. Yeah, so just spending time with him, spending time in nature. We love spending time in nature. We're always going to like new parks or forest preserves. We love doing like those little adventures. But yeah, I mean, I would say like those are the biggest things, exercise, the gym, family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the little
That's
things.
awesome. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's awesome. I was literally getting teary-eyed when you were talking about the working out. Because, like, just knowing what you've been through, dude, like with your back, like, and the
yeah.
fact that, like, you're doing the stuff that you're doing, like, literally, when you posted when I don't know what you did like a pull-up and then you did like a flip. I don't know if that has a name. I'm sure it does, but I don't know. You like
Um,
did a pull-up and then you flipped. You
yeah,
kind of were
it's,
backwards, hanging.
it's kind of like calisthenic, I want to
Okay.
say, which is basically just like body weight movements.
Mm,
Yeah, but there's people that like do like crazy, crazy stuff like on the bar. They just get so strong over time that they can just do some really crazy things. Yeah.
is
But
it
it's
kind of
just
like I saw this girl grab onto like the side of a pole and was like moving her legs slowly? Is that what that type of exercise
hmm
is? Oh, okay, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I
hmm
mean, you were basically doing something like that. But that was, I mean, when
Yeah.
I saw you do that, I was like, wow. I'm just like amazed at you, honestly, that you did not let that stop you. And I know you're still in pain, and that's what's like amazing to see. So You
Yeah.
definitely prioritize yourself in that way. And it's so motivating to see. Even if I'm not in the gym all the time, just me showing up to my dance class like once a
Yeah.
week, that I'm telling myself like that's amazing to me. And that's what it
Yeah.
should do. Like that's how we should look at each other and be motivated of each other. It's just like, yeah, that's your capacity and that's awesome. This is my capacity and that's awesome. And that's how we all, again, resist. Everything we can do can be a form of resistance, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's awesome. I would say for me, it's definitely family time, really being intentional with my kids, being present, putting that phone down. And, if it's too heavy with everything that's going on that I'm looking at, then maybe it's really, I need to just take that break. Spending time with my family. And then I think another big one for me lately is just really giving myself time to rest, like truly rest. Like
Yeah.
today I took like a full shower and I did my skincare, which by the way, I do want to shout it out, is from De Mi Tierra. It's from a local Chicago brand. I know you know the brand, right? De Mi Tierra.
Yeah. hmm
Monica has some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Really good
mean,
stuff.
yeah, it's amazing. So it's just, even just doing that, like my skincare routine and being intentional and knowing that the products that I'm buying from is literally from my comunidad
Yeah.
is just healing in itself. And that has really helped me like center myself lately with everything that's been going on. Just giving
Yeah.
myself time to rest because again, that overstimulation, the overworking is what keeps us, assimilated and oppressed. So allowing myself to rest and to heal and to process things allows me to feel more connected to myself. So that's been my joy lately. But yeah, I mean, I hope that, everyone listening can maybe take those moments of rest and maybe not pressure yourself so much in situations like this. And if you're going through something like this personally and this is affecting you, we are all one community that are supporting each other. And yeah, like let's keep finding those ways to resist, even if they may be small to you. Like you said, collectively, we all need each other, whether it's little, big, small, whatever. Everyone just needs to put in their part.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what I would say is we all can do our own little part. Like you said, I think even
Yeah.
just slowing down and taking those breaks, making sure our mental health is taken care of, that's a
Yeah.
great form of resistance because, like I said, what he wants is to spread chaos, spread terror, and he wants us afraid. He wants us to just not be informed and just want to put our heads down and ignore everything.
Hmm.
So if we are taking care of ourselves, we can be intentional about staying informed
Hmm.
and finding space to resist where we can and be part of the movement in whatever way we can. So,
Yeah.
the very least you can do is share story, share the information. Don't just ignore it, even if you're not personally going through it or you're not personally at risk. This affects
Hmm.
our community as a whole.
Hmm.
So, don't ignore it. Share what you can. Just support whoever you can if you know somebody. But yeah, I think first and foremost, take care of yourself and your family. Start there.
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Thanks for listening. Let us know if you have any questions, comments, and definitely subscribe. Can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you guys for listening. And hopefully this was helpful and you guys liked it. We would appreciate any feedback. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Bye.
Bye.